Hello, good people. Welcome to Off the Deep End, a Deep Listens spin-off podcast where we explore role-playing video games in depth. My name is Jeff Rud, the host and diabolist of this operation. Joining me today, noted dragoon, Chris ZombiePie, Redacted.
Jeff, do you hear that sound? Do you
No.
hear that sound?
What is the sound?
Gobbledygooker here to fist your pooper. We're gonna have a fun time today.
Christ.
This is not going to become a wrestling show. Gino's not going to give us the bandwidth. We can't talk about the gobbledygooker. It's not even Thanksgiving.
What? I'm sorry.
Don't worry about
Wrestling?
it. Don't. You don't want to know. You don't want to know. You don't want to know. Protecting us from this wretched dragoon is the most famous wyvern knight in the entire land, Braden, ArbitraryWater, Redacted. Hello, Braden.
Hello. Hi.
Please save us from the gobbledygooker.
Theme song's called Break an Egg.
Listen, if we're talking about, like, kayfabe and whatnot, I'm just going to start talking about VTubers, and then
Yes!
people never let us do a podcast ever again.
That's right, the deep end is hell. We're going to hell.
Or bust. I remember when the original VTuber was Hatsune Miku.
Anyway,
This
why
is
are
a
we here?
podcast about video games. Most of the time.
Hatsune Miku is a video game.
I suppose so.
It's real to me, Jeff.
On this episode, we will be discussing Fire Emblem Ankokuryu to Hikaru no Ken, aka Shadow Dragon and the Blade of Light. Originally
Fire
developed.
Emblem 1.
Yes, Fire Emblem 1, the first one. Fire Emblem 1 was developed as a co-venture by Nintendo R&D 1 and Intelligent Systems and published by Nintendo for the Nintendo Famicom in April 1990, April 20th, and subsequently released for the Nintendo Switch with remakes on the Super Famicom and the Nintendo DS. Quick housekeeping note, if you would like to be a part of this fun show, including all of our pre-show discussions and other fun community goings-on, you can swing by the Patreon that we run for the Deep Listens podcast and community group. That is patreon.com/deeplistens. Patreon.com/deeplistens. Hey, check out patreon.com/deeplistens. Kicking in any dollar amount will get you access to our ultra-secret Discord full of cool people and me. And you can also send questions to us via electronic mail if that's your bag. You can send those inquiries to deeplistenspodcast@gmail.com. That is deeplistenspodcast@gmail.com. That's the mothership. I might be buying a novelty top-level domain to set up our own email account, and I imagine we'll get maybe one email there a year.
Quick, let me check to see if we have any comments on YouTube, but keep talking, Jeff.
Oh, yes. Yeah, this podcast, for those of you who are not on the Deep Listens RSS feed, or however it is people get podcasts these days, I like raw RSS.
Nope, you're good.
Yeah, we also load these, and by we I mean Gino, loads these up on YouTube.com. So that is a fine place to also run us in the background while you sit in your office next year when we do that again. Because we ain't doing it right now. Hey, Fire Emblem. People like the Fire Emblem, right? They like the Super Smash Brothers and the Marth and the Roy. What do we know about Fire Emblem? Someone else go first this time.
Okay, Jeff. I have a Fire Emblem avatar on most of my internet presence right now.
Yep, here's a secret. We brought up a cleaner for this one.
I've played every single fucking Fire Emblem game and beaten most of them. I'm here to tell you things about swords beating axes and axes beating lances.
He knows all about triangles.
So, how do we... Braden knows my opinions that would probably be called controversial about Fire Emblem. Agree, disagree? Pretty much agree. Okay, you can laugh in the background. So I like Fire Emblem up to a certain point, and then I think that the entire franchise made a turn, a genre switch, as we would say, and I basically have hated the entire franchise ever since. I am probably one of maybe only 6 or 7 people. I would even contemplate that there are not as many people who believe what I am about to say, that you would require more than 2 hands to count. I think that the DS and 3DS era of the Fire Emblem games basically ruined the entire franchise, and that I don't want to play them anymore. And that is probably the complete antithesis of what you normally hear. There are definitely a lot of people who believe that this is the best that Fire Emblem has ever been. There were a lot of people who had Fire Emblem Three Houses as their, like, GOTY nominee, if not their top pick. But me, I kind of look at the state of Fire Emblem. I play this game that we just played, and I'm kind of like, more of that old shit. I want that old shit. I want this old shit, but maybe not as raw and unfiltered.
Give me that Kaga emblem.
Give me the Kaga era.
So
I'm saying, and I've said this before, it's like, we'll kind of get into it, but like, your fucking kids and your visual novel Fire Emblems with the face-tapping shit and all the weird, I want to have a nice dragoon and I want him to cast magic. I miss the days of when you would have a fucking guy, and he was just a guy who was a fucking peasant with a pitchfork, and he was shitty.
I'm just going to assume that accent was racist because I don't recognize it.
What's your experience with Fire Emblem, Jeff?
When I was a wee lad, I had a Nintendo Game Boy Advance. So my first experience, and we'll talk about this, my first encounter with this series, because I'm, like, not cool, was 100% Melee. And then at some point, I got my hands on Fire Emblem, which I guess is Fire Emblem 7.
Yes, Blazing Sword.
Blazing Sword. Beat maybe the first 10 missions of that when I was, like, let's say 15-ish. Then never thought about it again. Then became just an even bigger dork, and now I have the same game, and I think I've stalled out on mission 25, because I keep leaving a damn unicorn pilot out somewhere, and she just gets murked with a bow, and I'm like, fine, well, apparently I'm not capable of beating this mission. Because my brain is not big enough to do it anymore. So I've played that. I played through all of Birthright.
Ooh, wow. That's
Birthright.
one I don't think I've ever actually finished because I just don't like it.
It's, yeah, you know what? And I played it on, the people die difficulty, like a normal human being.
Yes.
Which was another thing we should talk about. Classic difficulty, yes. And wound up losing 3 people in, like, the last 2 missions, but got through the whole thing. And felt pretty good about myself. And actually, your blogs up on giantbomb.com, Arbitrary, almost pushed me into trying out Conquest. Because I was like, this is pretty good. I might want to do some more of this. But then I looked at the other, let's open Backloggery, 400 or so games I own. I was like, I should probably do one of those first.
Yeah.
Before I throw more money down this hole.
At some point, that's the other criticism to have with the modern era and not even the modern era, like the portable era, I would say. Like, eventually these games became 300 fucking hours long. Like, these older games, like, are still 100 plus hour experiences, but at some point, they decided, oh shit, what if we have, like, different endings and, like, all of this extra, character bookmark stuff, and it's just like I don't fuck with that. I just don't fuck with that.
You don't like support conversations, Chris?
I would say like the to break the back of a camel was really like Fire Emblem Fates, where you had to play the game literally 3 times and then buy DLC to find the true ending.
Yeah.
It's 3 campaigns, only one of them is good. I am a noted fan of Conquest, even though the writing in Conquest is the most embarrassing writing I have seen in a story-heavy video game.
Birthright wasn't exactly great shakes, but it was like functional. Like the actual story that they're telling in Birthright is like utterly uninteresting. And I think what maybe got me interested in Birthright is it's like at least a little more complicated. It's like you actually have to think about some motivations and shit, and not just like, we're the good guys.
Like the last time I was truly impressed by a Fire Emblem story might have actually been Path of Radiance. That's probably the last time when I really felt like the story melded well with the mechanics, and it felt like a rewarding thing to see all the way through. And like that's maybe the last game that really did permadeath in a way where I bought into the mechanic, because now we're in this kind of era where why would I ever buy into permadeath if like these are like anime set pieces with character moments? Why would I ever let a character die and then miss an entire portion of the story as a result of buying into that mechanic? It's just
And this is a discussion larger than the discussion we're going to have for this game, which is the originator of all of this.
Yeah, so this is a series that was born out of... so there's like a couple different like lineal parents that you could point out that were involved in Fire Emblem's like production. So like I mentioned up top, it was a joint production. So Nintendo R&D 1 was Gunpei Yokoi was the like producer on it, so he oversaw the project, but the programming work was done largely by a single individual, Narihiro Toru, who was an employee at Intelligent Systems. So Nintendo is this big monolith, right? But it's got these like pillars that have sort of become like the real ones who know. You can just say like R&D 1 and they're like, oh yeah, Gunpei Yokoi, the Game Boy, blah blah blah, or EAD, that's like Miyamoto's slice of it, and like Mario and like all that shit. So R&D 1 was like the come up with interesting hardware chunk of Nintendo, and then Intelligent Systems, like in its early inception, was this kind of support team. What they were really good at was basically developing tool sets and also like hiring talent that were like, their main job in life was basically converting Nintendo stuff on largely from disk system releases onto cartridges so it could get released in the United States. Or later on in like the console's life, just putting stuff into cartridges because the disk system sort of died. Toru Narihiro was the like sole programmer basically on this game, and prior to this, Toru Narihiro had worked on Famicom Wars,
later to be known as Advance Wars.
Yeah, this is where I'm going to talk a little bit about Dune. So like real recently, like over New Year's, my spouse got me that Dune board game re-release for Yule this year.
Fucking the newest one that just came out?
Yeah, the reprinting of it.
Oh, wow.
That 70s board game.
Yeah, that was made by the guy who made Clank. Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
So Dune, not the card game, but the actual 70s board game that's like kind of busted in some weird ways. And I got to play that with some people, and my spouse had this like moment of realization or whatever, where it's like, oh, everything basically is currency. Because like that game is basically about like when you fight with people, it's less like I'm gonna win this battle. It's more like how many people am I willing to have die in order to win this? Like that's the thing that you're setting when you're having engagements between people, is like you'll commit 10 units and then one general, each one of them's got a face value, and the thing that you're like setting up silently and then like revealing during combat is how many of your units you're willing to just have die. And as long as you have like n plus 1, n being the number of units your enemy has left, then you win, and if you don't, you lose. So she's like, oh, these are just money. And it led to like, oh, I just throw people around. Like, it's okay if they die. That's the whole point. These things just need to die in order for me to win. Otherwise, I never win. my goal is not to keep all my units alive. So Famicom Wars is like a strategy game where you start with a pile of money, you generate units, you throw them at the other units. It has really good music.
Really good music.
But it's pretty straightforward. Like, you can, if you've played Advance Wars, you kind of know what this is already.
And it also doesn't have, even though I find, looking back in hindsight, the story and the kind of twee anime underpinnings of Advance Wars story, Famicom Wars doesn't really have a story. It's just basically a base builder and then go at it. Yeah. Maybe a couple of different scenarios. But I find Famicom Wars interesting to go back to, but it's something that I find it very difficult now that, Advance Wars has come out.
I think this was even kind of identified by other people who we're going to be talking about here shortly. It was like, they're, as individual skirmishes and engagements, and this goes back to like H.G. Wells developing like Little Wars and like the origins of like literal tabletop wargaming shit, is like, those are kind of fun on their own, but there's not necessarily like, I don't care about any of these. Like, they're literally just like figures of dude. Like, it's a picture of a tank. Like, when the picture of the tank goes away, like, I don't care because I don't feel connected to that tank. Only in the sense that that tank cost me 50,000 gold, but I have more gold, so I build another one. This is where we get to talk about the real son of a bitch, who I guess wrote and sort of came up with the earliest inceptions of Fire Emblem as a thing in like 1987, and that was Shozo Kaga. So,
correct.
Yes.
The man, the myth, the legend.
The guy associated with early Fire Emblem.
Yes, so Kaga was like the Fire Emblem lad who was with the series from its inception, which again started around 1987 when they were like back of napkining this thing together, all the way through the late 90s, where I guess his final project with Nintendo was actually Final Fire Emblem Thrakia 776. We're going to speak in Greek here, damn it. Kaga also then went on to make Tearing Saga, which is a whole other kettle of fish.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a fun one.
And then he made Bearwick Saga.
Yeah!
A legally distinct video game.
And then he retired from the video game industry and recently came out of retirement to crowdfund a video game that still is in early access, known as Visteria Saga.
Visteria Saga's out.
Really?
It finally came out? Okay, sure.
Yeah, no, the crowdfunding was just for the translation.
Man, that game still looks like trash.
Yeah, it was made in SRPG Maker. It's interesting.
Wow.
But, yeah.
Boy, that game still looks like trash.
We're getting off topic.
Okay, sure, yep.
Okay, so
it's almost as if we don't have a lot to talk about with this game.
Almost.
It really is.
We're the context around Fire Emblem is more interesting than the game itself.
Yeah. But it is.
Talk
Jeff,
to your
sorry,
two resident Fire Emblem experts as to how this game made you feel.
So, what were the design goals in Fire Emblem? So, like, Kaga identified basically at this point that, like, there were RPGs and then there were these tactical kind of wargame things. And what he identified at the time was that RPGs, they tended to have, like, plots of, like, various qualities, but, like, the protagonists were kind of limited based on, like, a number of factors, including, like, the caliber of people writing them, the actual amount of memory put into a cartridge to, like, hold a story. And then on the other hand, you had, like, tactical games, which could have, like, all of these characters and all of these units, but there was, like, basically nothing stitching them together. So, like, the innovation there, like, the new syncretic idea was, like, what if you tried to do both and have it both ways? And this is the part that really gets me, looking through just like literally the Wikipedia article of this. Like, on top of that, strain is like a way that we could make this approachable is to try to basically de-emphasize the amount of math necessary in this game, which is funny when you think about it, because no, you didn't. You fucking liar. But yeah, it was apparently kind of difficult to do what they were planning on doing. So this cartridge wound up being a 384 kilobit cart, which in 1990 was not exactly like huge. It puts it in maybe like the top, like the 80th percentile of like cartridge sizes for like Famicom games, basically. With an MMC4 mapper, which is a mapper that was only used for basically 3 games. They were the ones that Narihiro programmed, so Famicom Wars, Fire Emblem, and Fire Emblem Gaiden. One of the things that they really wanted to do was include these like big dramatic splash screens that would have been like full screen graphics of like Marth stabbing Jagen to death and just like standing in a pool of his blood. But there was just like no way they were going to fit that in a cartridge well as a story.
Find out what was the eventual, like, what pushed them over the limit? It wasn't actually the animation. It was the ability to display the Japanese text. That was when they went over it. And so they needed to make this new chip because they wanted to put in these weird little, like, eye catches. And they could do the eye catches without the Japanese text, but you know what? They really needed that extra text saying victory.
Right.
And that sort of stuff.
That gets into, I think, the fun thing about this re-release that just happened, which I swear to God we'll actually talk about this game, but like, so this got an official translation like this year. It came out last month, ? I don't know if this was December. Okay. I don't know if this was a thing that they had on the shelf. I get the sense it wasn't. I don't know. I'm just going to go to the website right now. I should have done this already. But this game was fan translated like in the hoary distant past and has been playable by like non-Japanese speaking people for probably 20 years now.
Oh yeah, yep. Jeff. I have played some jank ass Fire Emblem translations.
Yeah, that original Thracia fucking translation.
The original Thracia and Genealogy of the Holy War translations are some real good, like, I am a student learning Japanese, and here are my overly literal translations.
Remember when there was one that I downloaded where they translated literally, and they're like, well, I'm not going to explain this shit. You're going to have to look it up on the encyclopedia. But you know what? How about I include a translator note on the upper right-hand portion of the screen that explains why I included this.
Straight up 90s fan sub ass fan translation.
It's so good. It's so good. And then sometimes they inserted their own name as the character that you're interacting. Yep. Oh, it's so good.
That's the dorkiest shit in the universe.
I love early 2000s memes being shoved into a Super Famicom game from 1999.
Oh yeah, there were some where it was like, oh, you put in all our base reference into this Fire Emblem game, you clever person, you.
Final Fantasy 4 and 5 translations are just filthy with that shit.
Yep, but
God. Yeah, so there's on romhacking.net, which is like more or less the repository for fan translations. I guess there's Tomato or some shit. Let's see, there's an unfinished one from May 2000. There's an unfinished one from August 2007. The first finished one that's fully playable is dated to 2011. So, like, you could kludge your way through this game as a non-Japanese speaker without even really understanding it fully, probably. You would have missed some shit, but you could have probably gotten it done. But it was at least, like, partially playable, like, 21 years ago. That said, you can go and officially buy this game now. Unless it's you're listening to this after the 31st of March in 2011, in which case you can't anymore because, well, there's no reason, because Nintendo is just insane.
Because Nintendo, they're like, hey, 35th anniversary of Mario Bros., 30th anniversary of Fire Emblem, what if we just pulled a Disney Vault and just said, oh, you can't buy this after a certain point.
Of the dumb things Nintendo has done, this is like maybe one of the most profoundly stupid. I don't see the fucking point.
It's either that or like what they've done to like Twitch streamers or like the Smash community, like this is definitely up there. Best case scenario, right? And I think we talked about this last time. Best case scenario is that they're pulling this to like sell it piecemeal, kind of like, which is my theory in terms of the Mario bundle, which is, okay, obviously they're going to pull the bundle and then sell each of those entries separately later down the road. But this is literally just one game to mark the 30th anniversary.
It's one game that is $6.
Yeah.
It's $6 long.
Yeah.
And then, like, and we kind of talked about this on the Discord, like, they have all of these, like, Wii Shop and Wii U Virtual Console ports of games that they haven't translated into the Switch, like Mother or Earthbound Beginnings, which is Mother 1's official translation, hasn't been ported from the Wii U to the Switch. If you want to play the official translation, you actually have to go back to your Wii U and hope that you still have a physical copy, because I think they shut down the shop on that thing.
The Wii U shop is still up.
Okay, but eventually, when they shut that shop down, that game is gone forever, basically.
Yep. It's real goddamn weird.
I love that, I'm a big fan of going back and translating or localizing old games. I think that's fun and weird, like when they did it with Seiken Densetsu 3 or Trials of Mana.
Yeah. I guess that's what it's called now.
But, yeah.
Square actually, they are not perfect, but like that Saga Frontier game came out, right, for the Switch, and they actually touched it up.
Yeah.
And they did the thing. I think that game is still trash, but they did the thing.
It's just such a weird... I don't get it. It makes me mad.
I mean,
it makes me mad.
This is the same company that probably has an official translation of Mother 3, but refuses to release it in non-Japanese audiences. Yeah.
And like, I don't go too down that rabbit hole, but whatever. You can go look up interviews with Reggie Fils-Aimé where he's like, I don't know, every time that project has been kind of poked at, it gets about as far as like, how are we going to explain this group of people called pardoned but the Magypsies? And they're just like, let's just put this one down because this is not going to fly. So I don't know, but there's literally no reason for this game. It's and we'll jump into the mechanics. It's a very bare bones, but it is a snapshot into an era of game design. It is a snapshot into the origins of now one of the most beloved portable franchises, strategy franchises in,
one of Nintendo's
in the
pillars,
industries, like a beloved franchise,
and the originator of basically, maybe not the complete originator, but definitely one of the big first tactical RPGs or strategy RPGs. Like, you don't get Tactics Ogre and you don't get Final Fantasy Tactics without Fire Emblem to some extent. It gets us to a bunch of places. And it's kind of surprising because, like, when you sit down and play this game, the amount of, like, okay, so what happens when you turn this game on? There's maybe, like, 4 screens of text, and then you're just thrown into, like, a battle scenario, like very Famicom Wars, but things are kind of set up for you already. There's no real purchasing to be done. There's just, like, a handful of, like, 8 units or something on that first map you get to control, and you're very lightly introduced to some, like, terrain considerations for how these different characters move, and then given kind of a notion that you can interact with towns. And it's like, wow, that's okay, so it's like kind of a beginner's thing. I bet they add some more mechanics. And yeah, they kind of do, but not much more than that. Like, that's pretty much the whole game laid out for you early on. Yeah. There's the core. The core of the game is recognizably Fire Emblem. Like, even though, it's 30 years removed from the fact, everything, the horsey people are there, and it's like, horsey people, they can move far. Yeah. And armor people, they're garbage, don't use them. Yeah. It still has the rock, paper, scissors mechanic of Famicom Wars, eventually Advance Wars. The weapon triangle, though. Yeah, the weapon triangle is still pretty much there. It's not there. It's not really there. Oh, I guess triangle doesn't show up until Genealogy. Oh, you're right.
And then, like, Fire Emblem Gaiden is its own little fucking kettle of fish. Like, holy shit. Which is why I think that's the actual starting point if you want to go back.
It is weird NES sequel Fire Emblem.
Oh man, it's so good. I actually like the anachronistical changes or the unconventional mechanics.
I really liked Shadows of Valentia.
It's, like, historically very important for an entire genre. It's maybe not the point in which we would say that, like, the conventions of the turn-based strategy genre get codified. We're almost there, but not quite, because we haven't gotten to XCOM.
It is remarkably playable.
It's perfectly playable.
Game.
Yeah.
Especially with all the quality of life stuff they've added for this re-release. Like, you can double the game speed, which you absolutely want to, because it's slow as hell.
Game sure does think about its moves, let me tell you.
It takes its time, and, you know, there's save states, and you can actually go back turns, like the more modern Fire Emblem games. All of that, like, it is a very playable game for a game from 1990, but that's because it's also very basic.
Yeah. It's and like I said, that's the mechanics they introduce are pretty much the mechanics that you use like through the end, which, like, I guess that's good game design in a sense. But what it led to was, like, by the time I got to like the 5th map, I was like, I really don't think I need to play any more of this thing in my life. Like, I think I'm done, because, like, as far as the amazing revelation of what if the game had a plot that motivated people to finishing it, like, I could just give one shit. Like, I if that, like, there's Altea, there is Marth, there's a lady on a Pegasus,
Vita.
There's, like, you know, there's an emblem,
Doral Empire.
Yeah, like
the Dark Dragon Maydew.
Like, the sum total of
we had to repel the pirate invasion of Talus.
The sum total of the plot in this is, like, at the end of each map, you get what amounts to, like, a brief cutscene, which is, like, someone talks to you for roughly, like, all the text in this game would fit into, like, a single-spaced Word document, basically, as far as I can tell. Like, there's really not a lot written out in this game for you to, like, sit and, like, ponder and absorb. Sure. It is a tactical game first more than it is like an RPG. I don't know if there's necessarily room for, like, and this is, I guess, getting into what role-playing actually is, which is a subjective thing, but, like, the role-play potential here, I think, amounts to, like, I'm gonna let this character do some, like, rearguard action while I move the rest of these, like, vulnerable units out of the way, maybe at the cost of losing this unit permanently, and, like, that's a story that, like, may be more interesting than the one that's, like, literally in the game.
That's part of the reason why I think that these early Fire Emblem games are better about that permadeath mechanic than, like, the modern era of Fire Emblem, because when you put so much, like, characterization into your cast, when you don't give the player these kind of, like, trash units, you don't opt into the mechanic of permadeath because you feel like you're going to lose out on an actual portion of the story that you've invested hundreds of hours into.
Yeah.
And so I feel like there is kind of like a juggling act of assessing, like, okay, should I put them frontline or backline? Do I move them here? And to be honest, I actually, even especially in comparison to our last game, like, the idea that each action versus, like, end of the battle yields experience points, and, like, it has this Lamarckism notion of use-disuse in order to level your characters up, I found incredibly novel.
Except for your healers.
Huh.
Your healers have to survive an attack to get experience.
And doing that is a pain in the ass.
Yeah.
Which, they fixed that in later games, weirdly enough.
It's kind of like playing Final Fantasy 1, and it's like, oh shit, I queued up my attack to attack an enemy, and now they're just attacking nothingness.
Same with items. You cannot access your item convoy between battles, and you cannot move items between characters.
Right.
You have to physically use the trade action to move items between characters.
Yeah, and it took some real reframing for me to actually get my head around that part, but once I did, it made, like, a sort of sense, because, like, you think about... I don't know when the series started this, frankly. I'm assuming around the third or fourth entry into it, but, like, there's periods between fights where you sort of, like, prep and do, like, the sort of downtime busy work shit, and in this game, there's literally no downtime except for, oddly enough, when a battle is finished, where I guess the more recent games are so caught up with telling a story that there like can't be downtime really while people are on the field. But in this game, it's like, okay, you took off like the main boss from the throne space and the map, and now you can just kind of mill around. So that's when you go do shopping, as opposed to in like the current games, which I guess make this harder, where you've got to like go do your shopping and then move your items around
that monastery.
Yeah.
I mean, that ends up becoming like Kaga's jam, is like, I'm going to put in all these like visual novel mechanics in between battles where you have to like social link with characters, and like in order to get their special ability, you need to have talked to them on so-and-so dates, Tuesdays and Wednesdays, but not on Thursdays, because then a different character is accessible there.
So if you bring Lex to this very specific space on map 1, you can get a brave axe for him, which makes him the only good axe user in genealogy. A lot of good stuff like that. Like, dude, okay, this prediction
Hannibal and genealogy of the Holy Wars. Remember that shit?
This prediction is going to age very poorly.
All right.
But if that Nintendo Direct that's airing today, if they finally announce that rumored genealogy remake, I just hope they keep all the esoteric bullshit in it.
I do too. Like, I would like them to preserve shit as well as they can.
They did it in the Gaiden remake. They kept all of the weird stuff in that.
And, like, I don't know, I guess, you know, whatever. We should probably continue talking about this game, but I'm kind of over it already.
Well, speaking of remakes, this game has been remade twice, and both of those are better ways to play this game.
Yeah.
That's the other thing about Fire Emblem 1.
So that's the version that I have poked more than this, I guess, in the last couple of years, is I bought a SNES Mini, which I'm one of those people, and just, I was reading my Bible, and then suddenly a bunch of games came onto it. It was really weird.
Yeah.
And yeah, so the Fire Emblem 3 basically contains 80 to 90% of the first Fire Emblem, is like the first half of that game.
Missing 5 maps and 5 characters.
And it's got better music.
It has better music. It has better mechanics. Like, that's where dismounting was introduced. It has Book 2, which is an entirely new campaign that is pretty good.
Yeah.
Like, there are better ways to play Fire Emblem 1. Like, I think Shadow Dragon, which is the remake of this game for the DS, is like kind of a bad game, or at least a bad Fire Emblem, because my stance on Fire Emblem is the same as my stance on Dark Souls, which is even the worst Fire Emblem is still pretty good.
I don't have a very articulated opinion on that game, other than I think it's like maybe the ugliest game on the DS, which covers some ground.
Yeah. Those DS Fire Emblem games, like, it does some stuff with its mechanics that are super weird, like encouraging you to kill off your units to get to the secret Gaiden chapters, which are the new chapters they made for that version of the game.
Oh, Shadow Dragon.
Yeah.
Play Shadow Dragon.
That reclassing mechanic that you barely use because most of your units have bad growth rates, and if you move them out of their class, it fucks them up. And it's just a shame that New Mystery of the Emblem, which is the second DS Fire Emblem and a remake of Fire Emblem 3's Book 2, never came to the United States, because it's a way better implementation of all those mechanics.
Yeah, but at the same time, like, I would rather have that than, like, what is the current problem with games like Fates and Three Houses, where literally your characters become so overpowered that you go into battles knowing, this is going to be a 10, 15-minute thing with no sense or sensibility of difficulty. I know I'm going to win. This is a complete waste of my time.
Yeah, that's like, I guess the weirdest thing about Fates going and touching almost any other game in the series, I guess, for me, is like, that game just has like a grind mechanic in it. Like, you can straight up just, like, hole up in your castle and just fight trash mobs, and you'll eke out, like, real garbage experience, but you can just do it. Like, it's a really hard game to lose, I guess.
There's just nothing that really, like, the franchise has kind of lost its, like, notion of just being...
blood
yeah.
first.
Or, like, the mechanics don't necessarily always feel like they're in service of what they're trying to do storytelling-wise. I mean, again, I will stand by my statement that the best Fire Emblem is Thracia 776, and the Yid Massacre is probably one of the greatest things that they've done.
One person in the audience is pumping their fist right now, and it's me.
Someday I'm gonna go down that horrible, horrible rabbit hole.
Listen, Nintendo, bring over Thracia 776, you cowards! I mean, you have to bring over
Yid Massacre is like an actual work of art, and the fact that they were able to take the mechanics and make you watch the rest of your party get murdered turn after turn is fucking amazing.
But it's not in this game.
No.
Nope.
In this game, it is a bunch of fairly simple, straightforward Fire Emblem maps. It is recognizable as Fire Emblem at its core, but it is just that. It is just the raw core of Fire Emblem.
Yeah.
Without any of the accoutrement that the series has been known for, so there's not really a ton of characterization. A lot of the deeper mechanics are kind of absent, so you're left with characters who are piles of stats.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, I just kind of couldn't be made to care individually about any of these units, and I guess that's me, like, of course I don't. Like, 32 years ago, if this is, like, the $100 game I bought for the next few months, I probably would care.
It is effective as a proof of concept versus like an actual compelling experience.
Yeah.
And honestly, I think that this is a game or a franchise or a genre especially that really benefited from the jump from the NES to the SNES. The extra pixels, the extra sound chips, it definitely benefited from that boost. But yeah. It was interesting to play this game, and
I did not have a bad time.
No, I didn't have a bad time either. I think that it's very competent. It's workmanlike. It's something that you look at and it's like, oh yeah, this is a fun little artifact. This is a fun little thing that people literally toiled around with for years.
Yeah, like the fundamental concept is like a sound one. It's just got executed on almost infinitely better a couple years later. So it's like maybe not entirely worth your time going back unless you're like a weird video game historian person who likes novelty, or B, ArbitraryWater and you like collecting stuff.
I have the collector's edition of this game. They did that 30th anniversary collector's edition. Comes with a poster that is like a fake Nintendo Power poster in the style of Nintendo Power from 1990. Nice. It's got a tip corner. I've got this. It's got a collectible NES cartridge that is super cool and currently sitting on a shelf behind me.
Very cool.
It also has an art book, but most of the concept art is from the mobile game, because...
Really?
Because those characters have been redrawn for that mobile game like 18 times at this point. Marth, he does not wear pants in this game. That's one of the big changes we need to talk about, is that Prince Marth of Altea, Smash Legend, does not wear any pantaloons in this Famicom Fire Emblem game, and they censored it.
Oh no, the C word.
Nintendo.
They took out this boy's creamy
took away
thighs.
His tights, gave him pants.
It's horseshit.
But it's a very nice collector's edition, and I like it a lot. It is the most compelling thing in that collector's edition is all of the goodies and not the game.
Yeah, the game is a $6 download right now and will remain so for another month and a half, because again, what the hell are they doing? And then after that, you've probably got it in that zip file that you have somewhere on your computer. It may not be as cleanly translated, but it's translated and good to go. That's Fire Emblem. Basically, I don't know, I couldn't... would someone... I'm going to give you 30 seconds to tell me the plot of this game, because I don't think it matters.
Okay. Okay, so Medus, the Dark Dragon, he's a bad dude. Marth, he's the descendant of the hero Henri, and he needs to get the falchion. It's falchion, right?
Yeah.
That's how you pronounce that word?
Yeah.
He got to get that. He got to get that blade of light and that fire emblem, which is a shield in this game. And he gotta get that dragon with his pointy sword.
We invade Braden just for the sake of it, because we need to get some cool shit to fight the bad guys. So we invaded another.
Also, Marth can't promote in this game. Axe users can't promote in this game, starting the trend of Kaga hating axe users.
We literally commit a war crime in order to beat the bad guys by here's this other country, we're gonna invade it so that we can get some cool shit and leave.
Gotta get that fire emblem.
And then pirates just attack for no reason, and then we have to beat them.
Oh yeah, I guess that's I realize this is done in other games, but maybe the real role playing potential of this, like I said, is kind of limited. But there are moments where, you're encouraged to go into every one of the little village icons, and someone will be like, "There's a store over there," or "I heard the guy in the castle's very bad." But sometimes they'll be like, "Hey, there's a unit that really thinks his boss sucks. Maybe he'll join you." It's like, oh, good to know. Or hey, this unit really wants to talk to your unit with this name. It's keep that in mind. And then you will spot, either an unusual looking sprite, or the game will just literally have an enemy be like, "Forsooth, if only I had spoken to Marth." And if you drag that lord over to that unit be like, "Oh shit, this sucks. Can I fight for you instead?" And Marth will be like, "Yes, hark." And then they're yours. And then you can kill them. That's kind of nifty. So there's some weird turnarounds on the battlefield based on that, I guess. That's fun. It's not unique to this game, but as a mechanical thing, kind of a new innovative idea, I suppose.
So, Jeff, you tell me and Braden, moving forward, turn-based strategy RPGs, what do you know about this genre? Where do you want to go with this genre? What games do you know?
I mean, so you wind up in the... not
XCOM.
God
Shining
damn it.
Force.
Matsuno.
Oh, wow. We're going to go down that dark path? Sure.
Yeah.
Let's go.
Final Fantasy Tactics.
Tactics and Tactics Ogre and Ogre Tactics and all the good stuff.
Final Fantasy 12.
Not to air dirty laundry, but there's some heated adult disagreement in another web community I've involved with over if Tactics Ogre for the PSP or Tactics Ogre for the Super Famicom is the one true Tactics Ogre. I don't have a dog in that fight at all. I guess I don't really know the difference or care. But apparently that's a hotly debated thing among certain people, I guess. I bring this up because, that's probably the big one.
God, we got all those Dissidia games.
Oh, and the whole Nippon Ichi line of shit.
Yeah.
Your Disgaeas
Disgaea.
and Stella Deus is an Atlas game that's kind of like that, I guess.
This is a genre that like the CRPG versus JRPG split is very stark. Like comparing, say, like a Sid Meier game to a Matsuno game, it's stark.
Yeah, I guess like the fulcrum of that, weirdly enough, is the idea of like sort of hero characters, like Warcraft 3. Like I'm thinking about like New World Computing, like HOM games.
Or even like pre-World of Warcraft, like Warcraft.
Right,
games.
like Warcraft 3 specifically. I'm thinking about like the idea of like there's all these scrub units and I've got this one lord who, like, when they die, I'm basically screwed. Or in the case of Fire Emblem 1, like, the game just stops. It's just like, Marth's dead, you lose.
Which you gotta love that ye old tradition of the named character's dead, so now you're fucked.
Yeah, versus something like Civ, where you just kind of make horsemen forever and just throw the horsemen at the other horsemen, and there's no, like, named characters. I guess there's, like, generals and stuff, but it's not really the same thing.
You name your characters in XCOM, but
sure,
you're the one creating those characters.
XCOM,
it's a perfect encapsulation of that CRPG versus JRPG split, where it's like you make your own stories, we'll create the mechanics, whereas we're gonna guide you down this path, and you can make some like weird visual novel choices with certain characters, but we are the ones that determine the direction versus like the very much like it's a sandbox. Have fun. Collect resources.
And it's weird because I guess XCOM may be the example. I'm sure there are others where it's like it's a CRPG, but it dabbles in the like Iron Man concept, like very explicitly. So like PC tactical stuff. Like I don't give a shit when units die in Syndicate. You know, like who cares?
Fallout
Julian
Tactics,
Gallup's Laser
Syndicate.
Squad, which is the game he made before XCOM.
Huh. He made that Rebel Star Command for the GBA.
Yes, Rebel Star Tactical Command for the GBA.
I look for that every once in a while because I want to pick that up loose at some point, because the idea of playing a portable, real basic baby XCOM sounds cool for whatever reason. I've got a big pile of GBA games already, but let's just add more.
God, didn't he make that? Wasn't there like a not just Rebel Star, but like the XCOM team made that really weird DS like Ghost Recon game that was super competent? What was that game called?
That 3D.
Shadow War.
Game.
Ghost Recon Shadow War.
That game that's still probably one of the most criminally underrated like 3DS games ever made, because that game is actually good.
Okay.
Yeah. You know, not going to blow your socks off, but a good, solid B game.
Julian Galop we need to have Julian Galop represented at some point, is what I'm saying.
Well,
I mean, I've played a lot of Phoenix Point over the last few months, and I can go off about that game for a while.
Is it any good?
It got there.
It got there.
Is what I think
got there. It got there, but it is there if you are tired of your 8th playthrough of XCOM 2 and want something different with that style of game. But it is no XCOM 2.
We're pretty far afield from the Fire Emblem thing, but like that's like the influence of Fire Emblem spread its tendrils pretty far in Japan, and I think as the game became more popular, like it's insane to think that that series basically arrived in America because of a baby fighting game for babies. And like that is it, and may be the sole reason that series still exists in some ways.
Hey Jeff, don't forget that Fire Emblem's first appearance in the United States was the 1990s OVA. There was a 3-episode anime OVA based on Fire Emblem.
Wasn't it to promote mystery or?
Yeah, that sounds right.
And it's not even like mystery is also a weird game, but
translated and brought over to the United States during that early 90s anime boom.
Yeah.
If you want to watch some real good early 90s anime dubbing, and they call Marth Mars because Marth is probably just like a romanization of Mars or something. Oh.
Jeff, you would like Fire Emblem Mystery of the Emblem because it was supposed to be ported to the Satellaview.
Oh.
And I don't know if that Satellaview version ever actually happened, but there is like a beta version of a Satellavport.
That's right. There was a Satellaview spin-off of Mystery of the Emblem.
Are you talking about BS Fire Emblem Akanea Senki?
I am. Wow.
Yeah. Let's see. Legacy, BS Satellaview, episodic tactical role-playing. Released in 1997 following Genealogy, prequel to Mystery of the Emblem.
The OVA was done by AD Visions, which, oh boy, some of their titles were like the original Neo Genesis Evangelion dubbing, which was quite good, and, but, oh boy, they were also, I think, didn't they also do Ghost Stories?
I am not an expert in this area.
I'm not the biggest ADV expert, but
yes, they did do. This is the same team. The Fire Emblem team was the same team that did Ghost Stories. God bless America.
The history of early anime dubs is a magical story that is far beyond the scope of this podcast.
Yeah,
but I'm just saying,
the plot, Jeff.
You there listening at home, if you want to find the early 90s Fire Emblem OVA that covers the first 3 chapters of the game, quote unquote, you absolutely can find it on the internet if you
it's
type
on
it into
YouTube of all things too.
It's up there with Final Fantasy V in terms of we don't care anymore. It's just y'all can have this one, public domain, whatever. Fire Emblem 1. Are we going to continue playing this game?
No.
Okay.
Now, is it above or below Ultima 4?
I'm going to go ahead and stick this squarely below Ultima 4.
Okay, I was going to say I agree. I think I like, in terms of like pie-in-the-sky mechanics, like Ultima 4 is just on a different level. Like, it just is probably one of the most, even for its era, one of the most ambitious games ever.
Yeah, I think that's that. Plus, ultimately, if I wanted to play a game in this style, I would 1,000 times take Famicom Wars over this, because it's just less fiddle fucking around, I guess, and just gets to the like meat and potatoes tactical thing, which as a cave person, I find appealing.
There are like 15 other Fire Emblem games you can play that are do this thing but better.
Yeah, you could say the same thing about Famicom Wars, I guess, but
yeah, I mean, if you're going to play Famicom for Wars, just pick up one of those Game Boy Advance Wars games. They're so much better.
Or Wargroove, I guess, if you're cool.
Just play Wargroove. I don't know.
Yeah, that's it. I guess no one ever really did this. Like, Kaga went on and did some sand off the serial numbers versions of this, but there's not really been anything like specifically Fire Emblem. There's been tactical strategy RPGs, but they're all different. No one's really quite done this. Unless you could cite examples. I'm sitting here struggling to think of anything.
I can't really think of any like small indie games that try to do the Fire Emblem like literal, like this is just Fire Emblem, but it's an indie game.
And I don't think I want to play that game.
In the same way that I can point to numerous like indie games that are just Final Fantasy Tactics with the writing is worse and the serial numbers are filed off.
I feel like of all things, like Final Fantasy Tactics has had more clones than actual Fire Emblem. Like people have made that Final Fantasy
Tactics came out in the United States.
Yeah, it came out in the United States. It had a bigger audience.
Even Tactics Ogre came out in the United States before Fire Emblem did. The PS1 remake.
Oh yeah. Like Ogre Battle 64 too. Like weird shit came out before this. It's crazy.
We should play Ogre Battle, Jeff.
Put it on the list.
I stared at it for like an hour and was like, what am I don't understand.
Well, we can do that, but we're not doing it next.
No.
Oh, god damn
So,
you. To our audience, I tried to convince them not to do this game, and I was overruled 2-3.
So, it's okay, because you've got a reserved slot coming up. So, like, this game, not very toothsome. Can't really sink your teeth into it unless you're like someone from 30 years ago, I guess. Like a particular kind of person that I am not. And that's probably a demerit to myself.
I am a Fire Emblem person, and I find this game kind of boring.
Yeah. So I want to go somewhere where we can like chew on something for a while, and actually have like a second episode for the first time ever covering the same thing. And we also got to justify some expenditures.
Someone made some choices.
Yeah. So actually, I think the next two games are going to kind of do that. But first, we're going to go to the land of Xeno shit. It's time. It's time for Xeno Saga. Not Xeno Gears, not Xeno Blade, not Xenos in the sense that we're talking about the Alien franchise. Or you can really fuck this up very easily.
I want Gnostic anime bullshit.
Yes.
Read the full title.
I'm pulling it up because I swear to God.
Xenosaga Episode 1, Der Will zur Macht.
Der Will zur Macht.
Oh, man. Well, I mean, we were gonna need to play something by Monolith.
Hell yeah. This game, all I remember about this playing it as a lad, is like the first 10 minutes, which even like as an impressionable teenager was like, this is the most...
The first 10 minutes is a cutscene, and they kept getting more. Like, episode 2 is like a 15-minute cutscene.
It's the most up its own ass intro to a video game I had seen at that point, and honestly, I don't know if anything's really topped it yet. It's amazing.
It's the most JRPG series ever. And they've kind of continued to make this type of game. I mean, there's something to be said about them making Xenosaga, Xenogears, and then Xenoblade.
Monolith Soft, very good at making RPGs about robots, God, and existentialism.
And Moe.
God.
And Moe. And creepy, glassy-eyed dolls that...
Big booby chesty ladies that wear skimpy outfits.
Okay, what if your sword was a waifu?
Yeah, waifu swords.
And what if the game actually dealt with the philosophical consequences of this?
I can't make myself play Xenoblade Chronicles 2.
We are not playing Xenoblade Chronicles 2. I do not have 8 years.
But that first game is pretty good. And I played a lot more Xenoblade Chronicles X than I will ever tell you about.
Are we talking about Xenoblade Chronicles 1 or Xenoblade Chronicles X?
Both, in fact.
Oh, god damn it.
Cool.
X is really cool.
Then you know what? If you're gonna put that shit on, then I will actually put. Don't
trust me. I'm not.
Don't push me. I will put Project X Zone on this list. I will fucking.
I'm not making anyone play.
I will fucking
X.
do it.
Xenoblade Chronicles X has a town theme that is so bad I almost didn't get married.
The town theme in Xenoblade Chronicles X is so bad it's amazing.
I will fucking put Project X Zone on the fucking list.
That would be fine. But anyway, get your PlayStation or modest PC out. We're going to be playing Xenosaga Episode 1 next on this stream. It'll probably be up, by stream I mean podcast, in about 2 weeks we'll be talking about that. I don't know where a good stopping point is, but we'll find one.
So maybe watch Xenosaga the animation and its several crossover video game stuff.
Yeah, go play that hot Xenosaga 1 and 2 game for the DS.
It's a 12-episode story arc in which you follow Cosmos.
Let's talk about Cosmos.
Cosmos.
She's a robot who's a lady.
And also, like, some
Mary
weird
Magdalene?
Christian symbolism.
Yeah.
It's gonna be good. Everyone.
Here's the thing. I have kept myself mostly
remember, it's
spoiler-free.
Cosmos Obey Strategical Multiple Operations System. It stands for something.
It's a recursive acronym. Great.
GNU is not Unix. Hey, thanks for tuning into this episode of Off the Deep End. For those of you who have stuck with us, once again, if you'd like to keep this show and the rest of the Deep Listens Mothership a-flying, you can consider kicking us a few bucks over at Patreon. That is patreon.com/deeplistens. You can also send us email feedbacks to deeplistenspodcast@gmail.com. And again, any amount that you kick into that Patreon will get you access to our super secret Discord, where we come up with cool plans like playing Project Cross Zone or other things that no one should play if they've got a functional brain. That's why Gino spun this show off, so he'd cover stuff that he didn't want to, because he ain't got the guts. But we do. So yeah, get in, send us $1, join our Discord, send your prayer concerns, comment on the YouTube, go to the web zone. It'll be fun. Thanks. See you next time. And remember, Marth is a lord that cannot promote. And also, Kaga hates axe players. He hates them. He doesn't like axes. He doesn't like cutting wood. He had a bad experience as a child. Something.
Horses are very good. Armor people are garbage.
Yeah.
Archers are garbage.
Pirates can go over water.
Armor knights are trash.
Be sure to shop after you kill the guy who sits on the chair. Not before. It's not worth it. That's it. That's all the fun I got. Bye.
Bye.